you all for being here. Large crowd, I see. So, of course, welcome to Kane's Hackathon. Super exciting for all of you. Let me start off with introducing you to who I am. My name is Matthew Haig. I was an IT and cybersecurity major here at Kane. I just finished last semester, so everything's pretty fresh. I am also the founder of DojoDesk, a martial arts management platform for studios across the United States. And we're also one of the sponsors for this hackathon. Super excited. So, I want to start off talking about a concept that's near and dear to my heart and is super important, as we'll be talking about today. And it starts with this concept. It's that, there we go. It's that none of you need to be ready for what you're trying to do. The most important thing is that you need to be close. So I'll explain it on this as I go throughout my presentation, but just keep that in mind while I talk. So first, I want to establish a little bit more about who exactly I am, because I'm sure some of you are looking at me like, why is he even here? I do not blame you. I would think the same thing. So let me first start with a little backstory. So when I was a kid, I was obsessed with Kung Fu Panda. And so I wanted to be a karate master. I wanted to do all the kicks and the punches just like Cub, right? So because of that, my parents let me try out for martial arts and sign up for a class. And so I've been training martial arts since I was 10 years old. I worked my way up. I got the different levels, the different belts and everything. And then eventually I started instructing when I was 17. And from there, I learned how to teach, how to interact with people, how to present like I'm doing right now, and also how to interact with students and parents and the works, running a studio. And then, once I started college, I moved up to this area so that I was closer to classes, and I got a job training in another studio. And this studio was a traditional martial arts where they focused more on, very similar to Taekwondo. So I currently hold 2 black belts. I've got my 2nd degree black belt in Goshin Jitsu, and I've got my 1st degree in Subakdo. And one thing I noticed from interacting with both my instructors from my home studio and the one I went to, as well as instructors from varying studios that I met at competitions and things like that, was that most studios ran on spreadsheets and prayer. And so, hold on, hey, keep going. So because of that, there was a big problem for the smaller studios, because if they could afford it, they would get the big, very expensive management software that often was not pertaining to an actual martial arts studio. So what happened was they would just create a software, and you could use it for a dance studio, you could use it for a YMCA, a summer camp, and yeah, a martial arts studio as well. And so with the more traditional martial arts, a big problem was that they were more focused on preserving their heritage and preserving their art than they were about really building their studio to make more money and get more students. And so I wanted to help my instructors face that problem. And so let me start with the story. My instructor at the studio I came to once I came up here for college had a big problem. The way he managed his attendance was by printing out a sheet of paper for every single day, and then he would highlight the student that was active, who came to class, for every day, for every class. And then at the end of the week or at the end of the month, we would pull out this big binder that had a calendar for every single student, and he would look at the papers he highlighted and check off the day that the student was there for every single day, every single student, and it took hours of his time. And so because of that, he had no time to focus on other things to expand his business and make it bigger. And so he asked me one day if I knew anything about databases. And I was a freshman at the time, and so my answer was absolutely not. And so I asked my friends, and they were also freshmen, so they had no clue anything about databases either. And so I didn't want to come back empty-handed. I didn't want Master Dell, who was the instructor, to just waste his time. And so I decided I'll figure it out. But I had a big problem. And it was that I really didn't know how to build software. right? This was my freshman year. The best thing I had was a Python code or Python class during high school, and I really just learned how to use Scratch. I don't even know what that is, that website. So that was the extent of my understanding for coding. However, I wouldn't let that stop. I decided to do my best in research. I went online, studied different ways to store data, different ways to get user input, and make a very, very basic GUI. Right? So the first prototype that I was able to make for MasterDAO was this. All it was it took a student ID, and then it stored that data, stored the student ID, stored the date to an Airtable API, and that was it. And it worked. It saved him plenty of time because all he had to do was click, and then they were in. But as he kept using it, he kept asking for more features. And of course, I didn't want to be like, I don't know how to do that. You can figure that out yourself. I was like, I'll figure it out. And so I added more features every time he asked. He's like, hey, can you fix this? Hey, can you fix that? I said, let me find out. When his assistants asked the same thing, I said, let me find out, let me try. And then when the other instructors for other studios asked, I said, let me find out, let me try. So that brings me to 2024, where I competed in the business planning competition here at Kane. And so I put together a big plan on what I wanted DojoDesk to be as a business itself, and I competed. I went through the judging process and everything, and thankfully, I was able to win first place at the competition. And so, of course, I'd love to say that the reason I won was because of my charm and my good looks, but unfortunately, I don't think it was that. I think the biggest thing was that DojoDesk was used by real studios and had real students in it already. And the reason that was the case is because I spent my free time, any time that I had, building it into what it was. And so this brings me to my first point for all of you, is that the problem you're solving is a lot closer to you than you think. So let me expand. Most people look for problems on the internet. They search up, hey, what's the biggest problem for this group of people? Or they ask Claude for ideas for a hackathon, which I don't blame you, I would too, right? But the best problems are the ones that actually annoy you, that you experience yourself, right? And so for me, DojoDesk didn't come from research, it came from my own experience, watching MasterDAO track his payments in a note, and realizing there's gotta be a better way. And so, cool little stat I wanted to throw in, that according to Stanford, only 45%, founders with direct experience outperform those without it by about 45%. So if you understand the problem that you're going to be solving, you are already at an advantage compared to everyone else. It's not because you're smarter, but it's because you already know how the customer feels, right? So if you know what they're feeling, you know the pain that they're experiencing, you know the best way to solve that. So for me, the dojo wasn't my target market. I wasn't just looking from the outside in and trying to figure out the best way to fix something. It was my home. I understood the problems that it had. So that takes me to my second point, is that many of you, or I would argue most of you, are more ready than you think. And so let me start off with a lie that many of you have been told. I've been told it, you've been told it, almost every single one of us has been told it, but not by everyone else, by ourselves. And that lie is that I'm not ready yet. A lot of us want to wait for, say, more experience, more credentials, think you need more time in order to do what you want to do, in order to become what you want to become. However, that's not the case. That lie has killed more ideas than failure ever has. It's like the phrase, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. It's exactly that. So, for you guys, 10 years ago, launching a software product like you're doing during this hackathon costs a lot of money. But nowadays, not so much. You can host almost everything for less than $100, right? So, the other case is that you guys have more leverage than any generation before you. Think of your parents. They had advantages from the technology that was coming up during their time to do better than their parents. And now case for you guys have AI, you have so much software at your disposal that you can outperform the generation from before. For my example, I used Flask, it was free. Python was free. For you guys, every database that you could need, there's most likely a free tier. You've got AI tools, open source, you've got documentation, you've got YouTube videos, right? And so, not knowing what to do has been solved. The real problem that you're gonna run into is actually starting. And so for me, I was 19, I was working full-time, I was a full-time student, but during that entire time, I was teaching myself what I needed to know. If I waited until I was ready, until I knew what I was doing, until all of that, then DojoDesk wouldn't exist, and Mashable would still be tracking the students in a notebook. And so, the ugly truth is that you guys will never feel 100% ready to do whatever you want to apply yourself to. But I think the important thing to understand is that that's exactly when you should start. Okay? So my final point is that the impact your solution will have is a lot closer than you think. You guys have 24 hours for this hackathon, right? Now, some of you may look at it like a limitation, but I would argue that it's not. And the reason I say that is because GroupMe was started at a hackathon in 2012, and then over a year later, it sold to Skype for $85 million, right? And they were at a hackathon, just like you guys are. Then we've got Carousel. It was born in a hackathon in Singapore in 2012, and it's designed to sell unwanted household items. Its current valuation is about $1.1 billion. Not bad. The like button, safety check, donations, those were all built at Facebook hackathons, right? The features used by billions of people, and they were born in a room under stress, with a deadline, and with a bunch of pressure, right? Just like you guys have. And so the goal for the next 24 hours is not for you guys to ship this billion dollar product, perfect thing that can handle every single edge case that you can think of. But it's more so to learn more than you could learn any other way, okay? And one decision separates you from those stories that I mentioned before. And the only thing that's really separating you guys is to start. So, now that I wrap up, I want to reiterate my main points, and it's that the problem you guys are facing is a lot closer than you guys think. You are more ready to solve that problem than you think. And that the impact you're going to have is closer than you think. And so, if you haven't already, in the first 30 minutes, if you're doing this hackathon, if you're doing another, if you actually want to build a business into something great, first 30 minutes, I recommend you find a problem in life that you've been most annoyed by, that you've experienced yourself, that you've seen friends or family experience, and that you understand to a deep level. Not an idea from a list that was generated or that was calculated to tell you exactly what you wanted to hear, but from something you already live, something you feel. And then, you don't have to be ready to do it. You don't have to be ready to create the solution. You just have to be close enough to understand it and start. And so, now go build something. So, like I said, my name is Matthew Haig. I'm the founder of DojoDesk. We are a martial arts management platform for studios across the United States. We're also one of the sponsors for this hackathon. In the top right corner, I've got a QR code for you to mark your attendance. And definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. You can email me, it's my email. You can follow DojoDesk online. And we will have a table up on the 6th floor. I definitely want to meet all of you, say hi, learn more about what you guys are doing, and yeah, thanks for coming.